Okay, this is almost, you know, almost shocking. Actually, no, not at all. It's just completely expected. Because people like to think, oh, but didn't the bailout work? And didn't they pay all the money back? And, the taxpayers aren't on the hook anymore. And, aren't we past all that? Well, let's kind of take a closer look at that, especially Fannie and Freddie, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, whatever mortgage giants. Some interesting numbers here. U.S. taxpayers is zero hedge. U.S. taxpayer is now a major counterparty to Wall Street derivatives. Again, quick, look surprised. According to a study released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in March of last year, U.S. taxpayers have already injected $187.5 billion into Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two companies that prior to the 2008 financial crash traded on the New York Stock Exchange, had shareholders and their own board of directors, while also receiving an implicit taxpayer guarantee on their debt. The U.S. government put the pair into conservatorship on September 6, 2008. The public has been led to believe that the $187.5 billion bailout of the pair was the full extent of the taxpayers' tab. When is it ever that smooth or that easy? No. You got to read the fine print, and you got to check back later to see if anything's changed. And by God, a couple of things have changed. The U.S. But in an astonishing acknowledgement on February 25th of this year, the GAO, Government Accountability Office, the nonpartisan investigative arm of Congress, issued an audit report of the U.S. government's finances, revealing that the government's remaining contractual commitment to the GSEs, if needed, is $258.1 billion. This suggests that somehow, without the American public's awareness, the U.S. government is on the hook to two failed companies for $445.6 billion. And that may be just the tip of the iceberg of this story. The official narrative around the bailout of Fannie and Freddie is that they were loaded up with toxic subprime debt piled high by the Wall Street banks that sold them dodgy mortgages. While that is factually true, the other potentially more important part of the story is the counterparty exposure the Wall Street banks had to Freddie and Fannie and their derivatives if the firms had been allowed to fail. See, now we're getting somewhere. Derivatives. Oh, that's right. Remember AIG and the bailouts? Like I said, AIG was the insurance company for those derivatives contracts. Who gives that money, insurance money, to the too big to fail banks, which is why AIG had to be bailed out. Because everyone wondered, why is this insurance company being bailed? Like, what the hell? The banks, which we don't really care for, but we kind of understand what you're doing, and you're telling us banking problem. Why the hell are we bailing out this insurance company? Why? Because it insures those derivatives contracts, and we had some problems. Some of those derivatives contracts imploded, and AIG insurance company could not even come close to paying out anything on those derivatives contracts, which would mean that all the counterparties, bank after bank after bank, gets a big fat red, not even an IOU, pretty much a big fat red stamp that says sorry about your luck. And then they owe this guy, and that one owes that one, and that one owes that one, and I can't pay you, you can't pay me, and you can't pay. Then we enter too big to fail. Too big to fail. The New York Fed's staff report of March 2015 concedes the following. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac held large positions in interest rate derivatives for hedging. A disorderly failure of these firms would have caused serious disruptions for the derivative counterparties. Remember those guys? The too big to fails. Oh, okay. Exactly how big was this derivatives exposure, and which Wall Street banks were being protected by the government takeover of these public-private partnerships that had spiraled out of control into gambling casinos? According to Fannie and Freddie's regulator of 2003 OFHEO, the notional amount of the combined financial derivatives outstanding of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac increased from $72 billion at the end of 1993, $72 billion, 1993, the first year for which comparable data was reported, to $1.6 trillion by the end of the year 2001. A 2010 report from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis updates that information as follows. Fannie and Freddie presented considerable counterparty risk to the system through its large over-the-counter derivatives book, similar in spirit to long-term capital management in the summer of 1998 and to the investment banks during the current crisis. While often criticized for not adequately hedging the interest rate exposure of their portfolios, Fannie and Freddie were nevertheless major participants in the interest rate swaps market. In 2007, Fannie and Freddie had a notional amount of swaps and over-the-counter derivatives outstanding of $1.38 trillion and $528 billion, respectively. The failure of Fannie and Freddie would have led to a winding down of large quantities of swaps with the usual systemic consequences. The mere quantity of transactions would have led to fire sales and invariably to liquidity funding problems for some of Fannie and Freddie's over-the-counter counterparties. Moreover, and again, when I use the word counterparty, think big bank. Moreover, counterparties of Fannie and Freddie in a derivative contract might need to re-intermediate the contract right away, as it might be serving as a hedge of some underlying commercial risks. Therefore, due to the counterparties liquidating the existing derivatives all at once and replacing their derivatives positions at the same time, the markets would almost surely be destabilized due to the pure number of trades required payment and settlement activity and induced uncertainty, and the fact that this was taking place during a crisis. End quote. Did the bailout of Fannie and Freddie save the same cast of characters on Wall Street as were saved under the bailout of AIG, which funneled more than half the money out the back door to, again, the Wall Street banks and hedge funds who were counterparties to AIG? According to Fannie and Freddie's prior regulator, at the end of the year 2001, 5 counterparties, big banks, accounted for almost 60% of the total notional amount of Fannie Mae's over-the-counter derivatives and 58% of Freddie Mac's. The report also notes that the market for over-the-counter derivatives is highly concentrated among a small number of dealers, primary brokerage firms, and commercial banks that are all counterparties for at least one side of virtually all contracts. Again, it's a big chain, and one kink breaks and it all blows up. So any kink of the chain is now deemed too big to fail, systemically important, bail it out at all costs. That's how that's going to go. The largest dealers, take a wild guess who number one is. The largest dealers include JP Morgan Chase, my favorite bank of all, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, Walking Dead Man, Goldman Sachs, Vampire Squid, Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, and Morgan Stanley, which we know what happened to Lehman Brothers. According to a current report from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, those same banks, minus Deutsche Bank and Lehman, account for the vast majority of derivatives in the United States. These are weapons of financial mass destruction. That's what they are. That's what a derivative essentially is. Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy 1 week after the government placed Fannie and Freddie into conservatorship. Merrill Lynch was taken over by Bank of America the same week. If you're looking for a potential list of names of Wall Street players that needed a quick bailout of Fannie and Freddie, the above list is an excellent start. Matt Taibbi reported at the Rolling Stones 3 days ago, which has actually been a few days ago now, that the government has been fighting a pitched battle to keep 11,000 documents pertaining to Freddie and Fannie under seal in a court case. We don't want the public seeing these documents. You can rest assured that some of those documents relate to Fannie and Freddie derivatives and counterparties. But that pile of 11,000 documents, by the way, pales in comparison to the 25 million documents the Justice Department withheld from the public when it settled its case against Citigroup in 2014 for $7 billion. What the public got instead was a meaningless 9-page statement of facts. Thanks to Occupy Wall Street and Senator Bernie Sanders, the public knows two concrete things about Wall Street. Banks got bailed out, we got sold out, and the business model of Wall Street is fraud. But until we have a president in the Oval Office who believes that the citizens of a genuine democracy deserve the right to sift through the documents of the most epic fraud in the history of financial markets so they can reach their own conclusions, all we really have are slogans, including the one that says we live in a democracy. Man, can I not agree with that more. 11,000 documents. We don't want that to come out. Let's keep it under seal in this court case. 25 million documents? How the hell could there even be that many under seal? The Justice Department has withheld from the public. 25 million. Jesus Christ, what's in there? If it takes 25 million documents and not one of them can be leaked. No, we don't want to show any of those. 25 million. Now repeat after me. Put your right hand over left part of your chest, your heart. In a zombie-like fashion, say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and the best part, with liberty and justice for all. Except you. Oh, JP Morgan, not you. Oh, Morgan Stanley, not you guys. But, they're excluded. They're excluded from prosecution. If this is not a banana republic, if the videos that I'm continuously doing do not prove we live in a freaking banana republic, I'm not human. Like, I'm an alien. If that's if I'm wrong, I'm not even human. I'm an alien or something. Wow. Take care.